Well, imagine that you've parked your car up in that field. It belongs to the Hetricks, my sister and my brother-in-law, Barbie and Jeff. You've parked your car there somewhere, and you're about to go down into the Old and Other Ways Museum, or whatever it's going to be called. You're going to go down the cow stair, which is over there. We'll go there next. But let's look from this view. There was a village here. No one seems to know exactly what its name was, but this valley, this little hollow, was once so busy with activity. Some people say that there 400 men worked here. I have my doubts that there were that many. But going way back, it was settled by Bowsers, Ickuses, eventually Schneeblis, and other family names, but I don't know if it had the oldest name for this place is Conemaugh, but we don't really know why that is. Then about 1884, an Oppenheimer family, two brothers, Norbert and Robert, twins I believe, bought it 1884 in August, and they bought it in order to make money from the iron mining, and it was at that point that it became truly an industrial site. There was a railroad, narrow gauge railroad, that came up through the hollow, way down there past those houses. Sorry about the wind. Is a town called Cessna, and the railroad came up through this hollow, and where it finally stopped is a little hard to say. Here or maybe beyond this hill, but it certainly forked. And it went on up through here, and this face, this cliff almost, was extremely worked for iron ore. But my subject today isn't really the history, but it should have a name, this place. I've thought about it. There was a post office here for a while, and it was called Oppenheimer, although Oppenheimer is located on old maps in the wrong place. It's located where the Helsel School was. But I'm reluctant to do that because the Oppenheimers, in a way, destroyed this village. Norbert brought in Italian workers, and they did the mining, and all kinds of. There are all kinds of archaeological features down there from the original village that were then covered up by the mound spoil. But again, that is not my subject. But what to call it? What name to give it? I thought actually about calling it Frank's Village because it was lost. It was forgotten, and I found it. There were rumors of it. Frank's Village, but I didn't like it very much. At the moment, I think I'm going to call it Handworker's Village. But whatever, the village, Handworker's Village. I separate in my mind into the North Village, which is up there, and there I can imagine someday, in effect, a small archaeological school, because the sites up through there are so rich for industrial archaeology. Then starting where those pallets are piled, that would begin what I will call the West Village. This is the West Village that you're looking at, and you probably can't see it at the moment, but my neighbor Andy, his backhoe is down there, and right there will be a very high water wheel, 16 foot maybe. There will be a sawmill, and where the square of pallets is, that will be a little tiny building which will house an old machine called the mill master, I think. And the lumber that you see right straight on is from a building that was given to me. It's timber framed, and it will go over that sawmill. The lumber that's right there was also given to me. That was my neighbor's little tiny barn, Josh, and I will reconstruct it. There, the wind is picking up. The sawmill I bought about 40 years ago. It's a Farcar, meant to be driven by steam, rope drive on the carriage. I will restore it. This sawmill here is also a Farcar. That building, which we would call the cow barn or the old barn, I think of it as Hockling House, in honor of the couple, the German couple that are such good friends of mine. Eventually I'll work on that. I may change the roof line. I almost certainly will change the roof line and make it into sort of like a German house of the old time. That building, I think of it as Thomas Hockling Hall. My grandfather, Grandpa Jim, he built those two buildings. And for a while this was called the Camp Ranch. That was the name for it. And the lane is called Camp Ranch Lane to this day. The road out there, the paved road, is called Oppenheimer Road, after the Oppenheimers. Those are very well built buildings. But Grandpa Jim had owned almost 600 acres, and gradually family members have bought parts of it. It's been separated down, and what my wife and I own is 37 acres. The hill up there, there's a lot of stuff stored up there, but I will be using it all, I'm quite sure, and that will be farmed on perfect contours. But I don't think of that as part of the village, really, and the land is not good. That hay did not come from this land. That hay came from another farm. Because this was always mountain ground, and then it was mined, and there's foundations everywhere. All right, what else to tell you here? The fence. We should probably look at that fence. That's an experiment. Pallet fence. We'll go down and we'll look at it much closer soon. But it separates the West Village, in my mind, from that little field down there, which I call the Fairfield. I think it's, oh, and there you can see the blacksmith shop waiting to be finished in front of that little Jeep pickup. Let's go over to the cow steer. I'm sure you hear the wind on the microphone, sorry about that. Anyway, this is the Hetrick's field, and here comes a car. But this I call the cow steer, because like a set of steps. Because the cows had found that this was the best way to go into this field. Many times I had to go get the cows because they got out. So I think of it as the cow steer. And below it, there is the Fairfield. Now I call it the Fairfield because in my mind, Handworker's Village would have a fair, like a Scarborough Fair, an old-time fair, like a weekly market, feira, they call it in Portuguese, and that would be the place to have it, I feel. I would like to, plan to build a little fountain right about in the middle of it, and it would not really be part of the village, but actually be outside of it. I was a little surprised to find that the pallet fence ends up looking a good bit like a stockade, which is okay. It's good. All right, we're going to go down to walk along the pallet fence, I guess. There's the Fairfield. I didn't even mow it this year. It wasn't grazed, it wasn't mowed. Next year I'll mow it up close, and it'll be much easier to see some of the features, the archaeological features that are there. Up there is where I just was. All right, now this pallet fence. I've been learning as I've been going. It's a cross between a picket fence and a snake fence. Well, you can sort of see what I did. I just wired them together top and bottom. It took me a while before I realized that they should be on as close to a perfect 90-degree angle as I could make them. And since the soil is not good here, I put tires down with a little bit better soil in them and gave them very, very little care. Now I will see how long I can keep these hardy mums blooming and protected. You take a plot like that, and because it's back in the corner, if I take cloth, which I have a lot of, and put it on the back. And if I lay plastic or glass over the front, I can make that like its own little greenhouse. Now we're going to go along there. Normally there's water in this ditch. But while I'm here, maybe a detail of my solution to fence, so I don't have to. It's almost impossible to dig fence posts here, fence post holes here, but this works. There's the cooper shop. It only has half of the wall on it, doesn't have a roof. There is a water wheel. As soon as the water starts up again, we'll get it going. So that's maybe the first of the handworkers. And that cooper shop, that's also where water wheels will be constructed, and gears probably. That's why that round table-like thing is there. All right, now we're going to go along this pallet fence. This year was so much just experimental. I didn't really know what I was going to do. Next year I'll get more serious about it. There is something called the ding, since I don't know any other name for it. It's a place to store things that can stand to be in the rain. That's a collection of pulleys and shafts I have waiting for some of my sawmills and line shafts. Here you can see there's water in the ditch. Now next we come to I call it the blacksmith shop, but there's actually two shops here, or three really. There is the wheelwright shop and the wagonwright shop. A friend of my nephew's motorcycle has been stored here for a very long time. Too long really, that's what that is. So there's the wagonwright, if you want, wagonwright shop and the wheelwright shop. Here's the blacksmith shop, waiting to be finished. I'll back up in a minute so you can get a better look at this. And here's where the blacksmith's wife or partner would live. Cook stoves waiting to be put up. That's where the forge is going to go. And I think I'm going to expect this person also to be a potter. I want to put a potter's wheel there. All right, we're going to go on that way, but first I'm going to back up. Here's a pallet fence where I used the pallets that weren't cut flush on the end. And eventually I realized that they would probably hold even a chicken in, certainly a goat. But anyway, where I'm standing is in front of the blacksmith shop. Need to finish it. I've got everything I need except for the time. And online, straight back there, is a fountain, or will be a fountain. Beyond that, you might be able to see, you're looking right through one of the sawmills. Okay, and I suppose now we're going to move on to there. Storage for the blacksmith, pipe, bars, short stock. That platform is all chestnut. It's American chestnut. There's no nails in it. It's really just a stack of chestnut with pallets on top to keep somebody from falling off the side. On that pallet are now sitting 3 heavy machines, and there's one very heavy one still to come. And they will be driven by a line shaft. A line shaft that's going to go all the way from over by that walnut tree coming out of the mill, all the way through that building, out of the building, over that or under it, all the way over to the blacksmith shop. One very long line shaft, powered in several places, a water wheel at the end. That's the first idea. Oh, and it will power things upstairs and down, mostly upstairs in Thomas Auckland Hall. There, not sure, maybe a small engine driven by gas, that is from wood gas, would be ideal. Here the tractor, if we choose to park the tractor under it and drive it off the pulley. This wagon bed will be the base of a chicken coop, or not just chickens, probably chickens, ducks, pigeons maybe, guineas maybe, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to put on top of it. The wheels are damaged. Okay, and underneath that will be storage. I'm going to be putting glass against every foundation that's open, just like that piece of glass is waiting to go underneath the stove maker's shop. Right here will be not permanent but temporary greenhouses, I think. Underneath that floor, which I will lay the metal on and then pour thin concrete, very thin concrete floor in it, is a stackable furnace. And that's where the, sorry about the wind, that's where the smoke will go on up through that culvert to the chimney I'm building. This is going to be an experiment in making wood gas and or charcoal. It was given to me by a neighbor. Here is this will be a stove maker's shop. I'll put glass around the base of it. It's just the floor. I don't have the walls or the roof on it. This outhouse is finally in the right place. I'm going to jack it up and it will have its own floor. It'll be a display of how they did it in the old times. This was donated. It's not actually mine. It was given to the Bedford Historic, or the Dutch Corner History Group. It needs to be jacked up. That's a bit of a trick. This will also be something like an outhouse, but I suspect maybe for generating methane. And I may have a small engine driven by methane back there to drive the line shaft. This building here will be a leather maker's shop. And again, the floor is there. The walls are waiting. There's going to be a waterfall here. It's a water wheel. This is called Elizabeth Falls. That's and this water supply comes from Oppenheimer Run over there. This is the mill, or the powerhouse. And underneath it, I'll have one of the biggest water wheels on the property, about 8 foot. You can maybe see the hub of it in there. But I have to get in there and jack it up and restore it. All right, let me think. That's pretty much the southern village. There's a spring house, original spring house over in there, the foundation of one. And there are archaeological features here to be found. But I haven't found them all yet. I'm probably forgetting to tell you things. But now let's go over to the east village. Here's an archaeological feature revealed, and now through half of the year or more, water comes rushing down through here. That building certainly needs to be seen to. Okay, these two little buildings, the one on the left will be the bathhouse, and or sauna, I guess you could call it, but a bather that was a profession in the old days. Between these two little buildings, there'll be a tub or a pool or something. This one on the right will be the laundry. And I have tubs and that antique washing machine. That antique washing machine will be driven by a water wheel, which will sit about here somewhere, here I guess. And this is called Donna Falls. And that's basically that's the extreme, that's all there is to the east village, down here anyway. Up there, I have the makings for a trip hammer. I don't know how practical it'll ever be to use it, but I'd like to have people be able to see what a trip hammer or a tilt hammer looks like. There's the bearings, there's the hammerhead, and the anvil is over there waiting to be brought here. That's pretty heavy. It takes some doing to get it here. I also want to grind glass here. I'm going to fill these with cement. Hopefully they'll be heavy enough to then go in a circle like this inside and grind glass. There's a waterfall that goes there. That's called Jess Falls. Here I will have fires that have to do with kettles, and the smoke will go underneath that floor and up that chimney. At the moment I'm storing sheet metal here. This is certainly an archaeological feature. That water wheel will power a stamping mill to break up glass as part of this final grinding of the glass. Now as far as melting glass, oh, and this is the beast, this is called. This is an incinerator, massive. There is the shroud for a water heater that's going to go down there for those serving those two buildings. And there's the heat exchanger, I guess you'd call it, down there lying. In this space I will cast, maybe iron. This will be a casting floor, and there's for making charcoal, a collier. Truly hot fires. If we cast iron, that's truly hot, and if we do anything with molten glass, that'll be in here as well. On top, the heat I plan to use for drying wood. I don't know if I'll ever put a roof on it. Maybe just a tent. All right, let's see. I guess I'm not going to go inside the mill, but inside there is all kinds of stuff for milling grains. All will be powered by a water wheel. Upstairs is cloth storage, material storage, insulation storage. That tractor sits where I'd have a little tractor to run the line shaft. And this glass is over an area which I'll excavate to have the cold side of Thomas Hockling Hall for beer to be brewed, for example, or storage of pickled beef or something like that. All right, before I go inside, I think I'll maybe stop. I've got a good start on this now.